Welcome to Cali's Finest. My name is Kris Kloss. I am your host, and this is the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. The more great subscribers we get, the more great content we can bring to you. Now, on this edition of Cali's Finest, we talk to Darwin Finch. Look, Cali's Finest is not just about the past. It's about the present. It's about the future. This young guy came up in Santino Bros Wrestling Academy. He and I talk about when we worked together in Millennium Pro Wrestling. All this and a whole lot more. A very, very great guest, and we thank him for being on here, and we thank you fans for joining us right here on Cali's Finest. Darwin Finch, the one and only, welcome, my friend, to Cali's Finest, right here on the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you, man. And, man, talking about all the greats in California, of course. This is a bit of a spin-off from Extreme Memories, but this is the generally California professional wrestling. We go from the past, the present, the future, all the way from NorCal to SoCal, all the history and all the stars of today. And so thank you, fans, for joining. And once again, new episodes of Cali's Finest right here on the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel on the 10th of every single month. So be sure to subscribe to the Wrestling Chatter if you haven't done so already. So Darwin Finch, I got the shirt. I should have worn it, but it was like the what is it? Darwin. It's like it was a.
Is it the and out come the nerds?
Yeah, that's it. That's right. And
Is
it's
that
kind of
one?
like what is it? The I'm blanking right now. The Darwin, like the Darwinism or whatever. Is that kind of like a play on that or no? Okay.
For which shirt was that one?
It was the big red letters that said Darwin. And I think the nerds thing, I think you're right. Out come the nerds.
I think, hold on, I lost you there for a second. That's a play on Rancid's and Out Come the Wolves.
Sorry, yeah. That's where I was blanking on it. It looks like a Rancid shirt. Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a cool, hey, honestly, like, there's like, most all the guys today have their own shirts and their merchandise. And there's a few that kind of stand out that I could see myself wearing that it's not just about the wrestling. It's, this looks cool. And yeah, your shirt is definitely one of them, man. So awesome, dude. And that's so important now too, we can get into with indie wrestling and how the business has changed so much, But so let me ask you, Cali's Finest, Darwin Finch, welcome once again. We worked together a little bit. We'll get into that a little bit later. But first, where exactly did you grow up?
So I was born in the Galapagos Islands, but I grew up in New Hampshire, small city, Keene, New Hampshire. It's where the movie Jumanji was filmed. Is the only thing it's famous for. I moved out here to California in 2013, and I don't plan on ever going anywhere else.
Wow, that's awesome. So you grew up Galapagos and near which is forgive my geographical ignorance, but that's near New Hampshire. Is that what you're saying, or?
No. I was born there, but I lived in New Hampshire. Yeah, I moved to.
You were born in Galapagos Islands, lived in New Hampshire. So you didn't live in the Galapagos for long?
No, I don't even remember it.
Okay. How did you end up getting born there, may I ask?
My parents were working there. They were scientists, and they sent me to live with my my uncle and aunt in the United States. Yeah.
Oh wow. So out come the nerds, and then now we see kind of the parallel, the scientists for parents. I mean, hey, this is who knows?
There you go.
Yeah. So all right. So and then 2013 you moved to Southern California.
That's correct. Yes.
Now when did you become a pro wrestler? Was it before the move or after the move?
It was after the move. So I had gone through just kind of doing what I thought I was supposed to do in life, but always kind of having that wrestling itch. Um, and then at some point in my mid 20s, decided that I wasn't loving what I was doing. What I've always loved since I was a child was pro wrestling. So I gave it a shot over at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, which was formerly the Killer Kowalski Academy.
Right.
But it was being run at that time by Brian Fury and Todd Hansen, who's better known as, they keep changing his name, but he's one of the Viking Experience guys. Ivar. I don't know. Sorry, guys, I haven't kept up. But I was there for about 3 months before I moved over, and decided that I wanted to keep training, and that's when I joined Santino Brothers in 2013, and I would say I got the majority of my training there.
Okay, so you said now the becoming a wrestler was after you moved, but you like you said you did some training back east.
Yes,
But
yeah, just a little
now,
bit.
how come you? Let me ask, how come you say you didn't come a? So you're talking about when you finished your training, you started training there, but you weren't a pro wrestler yet. You're saying.
That's correct. Yeah, I just kind of had gotten like some of the fundamentals and like kind of the basic, um, like calisthenics and that kind of training. Learned how to bump and roll and stuff like that, but I hadn't really learned any like actual wrestling before I came over to California.
By the way, you got a shirt on there. That wouldn't happen to be a guy by the name of Jimmy May. Oh no, Watts. Oh,
No, it's
yeah,
Watts. It's
Watts.
Watts.
I actually, speaking of Watts, him and I go back, and man, I was talking to a guy named Jimmy Mayhem. Shout out to that guy.
Oh yeah, I know Jimmy.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh! Now, can you imagine Watts and Jimmy Mayhem in the ring together? That I think there's money to be made there. Let me just say right now.
yeah. I'd like
Yeah,
to see that. Why not?
I mean, irresistible force meeting the immovable object. It's one of those moments that, boy,
It's a battle
both
of
those guys, would be foolish not to at least try that somewhere sometime. In my opinion. But um,
yeah.
so
I'd like
so
to see
you
it.
so you talk Santinos, kind of fine tuning what you started at back east, Kowalski's original school. Why Santinos? What was it about Santinos that was the reason you joined up with them?
I think what grabbed me was their website and their presence. I was a fan of Chaos back when I was just kind of collecting DVDs, and I saw other guys I recognized there at the school, like Willie Mack and Ray Rosas. And I noticed that they were putting out videos and they were having like student showcases, and it just looked like a really like fun place. And also it was kind of, I think it was probably the most convenient drive. I think I was kind of in between there and another school, and but it was mainly, just seeing the website, seeing who was involved, and yeah, then that pretty much drew me right into it.
That's great, man. I mean, I believe me, I go back with those guys too, so I know what they're all about and their credentials. And had our last guest, famous B, or we had on Cali's Finest, talked a little bit about Santinos and talked a little bit about, let's say, not only how to be a pro wrestler, but how to be
Hmm.
a television performer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely a big part of the training. To making sure knowing where the cameras are, how to cut a promo, how to portray a character, as well well as aspects and the more crowd oriented aspects. It's all kind of all rolled up into one in the education there.
Yeah, very cool. So many, and it's great because I mean, people oversimplify pro wrestling more than not, in my opinion. And boy, is it the opposite of that for sure.
Oh yeah, a lot. There's a lot to think about. A lot of little tiny facets and crooks and nannies and all that stuff.
And someone like you, Darwin, like that is so important because again, you have uh pro wrestling is full of characters, but you have this kind of a unique I can understand you, I relate to you, but at the same time you're intriguing and different. You know what I mean? Like to the fan, which I appreciate and I see, and it's always nice to see something new and fresh come along that I can only speak for myself, but that can get a reaction out of somebody that's kind of been around and done it all. And then if you can still react to something new, this is good, this is different. It's helping me now get into whatever this product is in front of me that you're participating in. So talking about like how there's so many aspects to pro wrestling, it's not just as simplistic as a lot of people think. For your character, again, talking about how you have something unique yet different. I can only speak for myself, but people that have been around the business for a little while, it's always nice to something fresh that appears in front of you, get you to kind of, wow, I'm interested in this, yet I've seen it all already. That's always a good thing, in my opinion, And I remember when we first worked together, I saw it was, okay, this is different. It's not run of the mill, So, and again, that comes from a lot of just experience, your own creativity, but again, a school like Santino's helping you to achieve and kind of spice up what you already have, if you will, with the techniques of how to be a pro wrestler and a television performer again.
Yeah, definitely. And I tell thank you, by the way, but I tell people that are first coming up, not to necessarily cling so much to the idea of what they want to be, because so many people want to be the badass or the pretty boy or whatever it is. And sometimes that's not always going to be what works for you. I know I originally thought, that I was going to lean heavier into the punk thing and be like meaner and be tough. And, I had this whole idea already set for me. But I don't believe I became a good wrestler until I was just kind of goofing around, being a little bit, more leaning a little bit hard to my nerdiness and just being a
Yeah.
goofball.
Right.
And the trainers at Santinos caught wind of that, and it was popping my classmates, and so I leaned into that. And once I was having more fun goofing around, I became a better wrestler. And I was able to kind of, as I kind of evolved in wrestling, kind of add, the other parts of my personality, the tougher side of myself. But I needed that silliness in order to get there. So sometimes you just gotta be open and listen to your trainers when something else is working that you might not have been planning on. That's really my advice to newer wrestlers coming up.
Man, yeah, just just kind of like letting go. It's not easy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In life in general, not just pro wrestling, just kind of um, letting the natural course take you where where it wants to take you. Instead of fighting. I must stay and do what I've learned for years even if some new idea comes around, I'm going to hold on to this so hard just to stand still and not evolve. Like it's almost like you spend more energy just to stand still, right? Or it's just get
Yeah.
out there, lay there and kind of, oh, this is cool. Oh, never knew that before. Whoa, this is, but there's so much of that in wrestling, and that's like you're saying, the goofiness is a lot of that. I mean, look, when we were kids, we fell in love with this industry,
Mm-hmm.
and that kid that fell in love with this industry, that kid's mind should never go away, and it needs to stay there to help you later on, if you will, when
Yeah.
let's say we do kind of get desensitized as adults or whatever. um
Sure.
Very, very cool, man. Um but yeah, so now representing the Santino school at other shows, you are when you first started working. Now, when was your first match? Who was it for? Was it for Santinos? And then
It was for Santinos,
okay,
yes.
and when was this?
It was November of 2014. My first match was against Chaz Herrera, and it went
Yeah.
to a time limit draw.
Okay, and how nerve wracking? Like, was there a big crowd? Or?
Oh, incredibly nerve wracking. I mean, it was in the Santino Bros dojo, so they couldn't hold a lot of people in there anyways. But it was packed for what it was. But just your first time in front of a crowd, no matter how big it is pretty nerve wracking. And you can even see in that video, I'm physically shaking.
Yeah.
A lot of it. I wasn't paying attention to the crowd at all. I was just kind of focused on what I was going to do in the match. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So
But that's
it was
how
pretty
it's
much
almost
all
like,
moves, and like there was character, but I wasn't interacting. I didn't really hadn't embraced that right away.
it's like I like to compare it to, let's say, a stand-up comedian that is just, I have my jokes and I'm gonna memorize them, and I don't care and I'm gonna basically talk about that as if there's no crowd. I'm just gonna go over a script and not interact with that audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same with wrestling, but it's almost like you have to, your first few matches, you kind of have to do that. You have to get the tools sharpened, and then later on, you're gonna deal with the crowd. Usually,
yeah. That stuff comes along as you get more comfortable. Then it just becomes like riding a bike. I guess it's just second nature.
So did you go to WWE shows at Staples Center when you moved out here?
I did not. No. The only
No.
times I went out to them out here was either to Flyer or after I became a wrestler to do extra work.
Oh
But
yeah,
no, I haven't attended one. No.
you did. You did that, right? You going back there as an extra for WWE.
Oh yeah, I've done it multiple times. Probably, I want to say a total of 6 days, but I think I only was on the program 5 times.
Now, what was that exactly? Like where did you do that? You went back east, or it was here?
It was here, yeah. No,
Okay.
I did a SmackDown. I did a Raw in San Diego, and then I did when they were here at the Staples Center for 4 days straight for Takeover, Survivor Series, Raw, and SmackDown. I was there for those 4 days, and then I did another Raw over in San Bernardino, I think. No, Bakersfield. It's Bakersfield. Yeah.
What did that entail? What were you doing as an extra?
So the first time I went, I was a stage hand that got thrown into a gate by the Authors of Pain.
Awesome.
For some reason, during that 4-day stint when they were there, I was a medic. on Survivor Series for Ronda Rousey,
Oh, wow.
on Raw for Braun, and on
Okay.
SmackDown for Rey Mysterio. I don't know why they did a medic spot 3 nights in a row, but I was happy to do it. And then the last one, the last Raw was the Bakersfield one, and that one I got punched by Tyson Fury as one of the security guards, trying to break up him and Braun. Yeah. So fun times. Yeah.
Okay, so your first match at Santinos. Now, when did you start wrestling other shows outside of Santinos, and what was the first?
Actually, my third ever match was again against. I think I spent like a good 6 or 7 matches. I just were all against Chaz. And my third ever match was Freak Show Wrestling, run by Sin Bodhi. He ran it out of the Knox Pro building back when they were in Sunland at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he, surprisingly enough, he didn't have us do be as extras like he normally does with new wrestlers. He saw our gimmicks and he gave us a match and he let us put it together. Because I had an idea for a 4 corners of impurities match, which I thought would be funny because I was leaning way harder into the nerd aspect. So we had one corner was frat guys with a beer bong. If you got pushed into that corner, they forced a beer bong. I did get kind of intoxicated in this match.
Oh, wow.
One corner was pretty girls, you cute cooties. The third corner was the Hamburglar, who would shove burgers down your throat. And then the fourth corner was Hobo, who was just a dirty person. So, so yeah, that was. I'm proud of that match. For 3 matches in, putting all that together and coordinating the spots with that, I was pretty proud of that match.
And you had a lot of participants helping.
Yes.
Like there were a lot of there were a lot of parts to be played, if you will.
Yeah, and luckily, like Sin was great. He had the idea. Like one of us had the fast food idea, and he decided to dress somebody up as a Hamburglar. And he helped kind of get some of the people for the parts, but we brought in some friends as well to.
You could have hired Dirty Ron McDonald for that part.
I don't think he was down here yet, but yeah, he would have fit in great. Yeah, this would have been 2015, so I don't think he had moved here yet.
Again, man, like a lot of that stuff, I know it doesn't seem terribly long ago, 2015, but in some ways, what you just said, a little ahead of its time. I think. I mean, I understand you're wrestling in a company that's doing that, but still, you have to think outside the box either way to come up with those ideas.
Oh yeah.
I
appreciate that.
At the end of the day, I mean, come on, that's one of the basic aspects of pro wrestling, that the foundation of wrestling, thinking outside the box.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I would like to do that match again someday. I do now what I refer to every once in a while as dork matches, which are kind of like downplayed death matches that usually involve like toys from the dollar store, but things that still hurt, and bumping on Legos and stuff like that, but nothing too gnarly. So they're not a death match, they're a dork match.
I love it.
Yeah.
So okay, now when you started wrestling outside, you were representing Santinos though? No, were you not at other shows? Or
yeah. I mean, not
unofficially,
so blatantly all the time.
Unofficially.
But backstage definitely, especially when I was first coming up, that was kind of a good, easy way to get booked. Was, well, where did you train from? Santinos. Oh, okay, you can work. Come on over. So
right, a good little line there on the resume for sure.
Oh, definitely.
So getting your first exposure, when did you realize you were okay? I'm starting to kind of get my exposure. When was that? How was that? Like that kind of that first hump, if you will, that you could think of that you kind of like, okay, I'm feeling like I'm on the radar now in a way. And you too, like yourself, that you felt like you were doing what you needed to be doing.
I think really started kind of picking up steam either kind of towards the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. I was starting to kind of go out of state a little bit, and I was having a lot of good series of matches for WPW, working with guys like Watts, with Bateman, Eli Everfly, Dark Sheik, just to name a few. And then I started going to Hood Slam, and then and starting to get more bookings kind of all over the place. I think that's kind of when it started. And then unfortunately 2020 came, and we know what happened. But that kind of seemed like a throwing a penny in the rails. So kind of luckily when things started coming back, I got brought over to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I think some of that exposure kind of helped put me in the eyes of more people. It's things start kind of picking up again. I'm starting to go outside the box and do bigger shows. I did raise the bar last year, and kind of going out of state into Las Vegas, and I just went up to Washington a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah, whereabouts in Washington?
5cc up in Bellingham.
Bellingham, yeah, okay. I got family up there, so yeah. I know it enough,
That's a outside the box promotion, I would say. They have a 5-sided ring, which I had never wrestled in before.
Wow, like like a home plate shaped ring.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's weird because you'll be expecting buckle and there's ropes. It's you have to run the ropes in a star.
Wow. Okay, a 5-pointed star.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting, man. Some satanic wrestling
there. Kinda, I guess so. Oh no.
They're all like in a cult.
What happens when you run the ropes backwards?
Oh, dude, I don't want to know. Or turn the ring. Man, I don't. All right, I don't claim to know them anymore up there in Washington State. But anyway, so now, okay, so you're starting to get your feet wet. You're starting to gain some steam, some momentum. Of course, the pandemic, but then things started up. That's where you and I met and worked together for the first time. But now going back, the name. I know you kind of talked a little bit about the genesis. You were going to go the punk rock. You're going to go the nerdy gimmick and all that. Coming up with the entire name and character though, Darwin Finch. And
yeah, so I was kind of just thinking of one of my friends came up with threw a couple of nerdier names at me, and one of them was Darwin, and I liked that. So just kind of thinking of a last name, and then it was basically, it was kind of bouncing off of that. Just Darwin Finch made sense because Charles Darwin studied finches to talk about adaptation and evolution, noticing that different finches in different environments would evolve differently in order to adapt. So I kind of wanted that to be kind of the character's mantra almost of adaptation and evolution. I adapt to whichever opponents I'm in the ring with, and I'm always evolving, whether it's, just as we do in wrestling, you get in better shape, you start getting better gear, you learn and progress as you've had more experience, and as you continue to study and try different things, and seeing what works and what doesn't. So that's kind of the name is basically the gimmick.
I was just going to say that such a crossover, and a fine line that blurs fiction and reality right there for sure. I was going to go as you were talking. I couldn't help thinking that. I would love to see your first match, like let's say you're like talking to somebody as part of a gimmick or an angle, and like, yeah, you know what? I remember my first match, and there's a dream sequence, and it's like old film, and it shows. And it says first match, Darwin Finch, and it shows a little monkey running around. Just saw at the zoo. I wish I didn't say it live on here, but maybe. I mean, it's
funny, I can see it. Right? I can see it in my head. Yeah, it's good.
So interesting, man, and I think a lot of people appreciate that, and a lot of people probably, I mean, everyone's different, but I know a lot of people would hear you right now, like you could have gone that punk rock gimmick, you could have gone the nerdy, and both are different, but I think this one's even a little bit more different, more outside the box, and even the punk rock.
Yeah, and it's more true to myself, because as much as I am into punk rock and stuff, I got into that because I was a nerdy kid that got beat up all the time. Exactly. So really, it's just a retelling of my own personal story through wrestling.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's awesome, dude. Do you have any particular memorable local promotions that you kind of like, that was a little different, that was good, or that was good for my career, or I performed great there? Anything memorable local promotions?
So yeah, locally, obviously Santino Brothers. I mentioned Wrestling Pro Wrestling, which is, besides being bananas, kind of in the way that Freak Show was, but in a different sense, but that same kind of vein. I had a lot of some of my best matches for that promotion. I love spending time over at MPW, which I believe is where we met.
Yep.
And I am going to be going back there again next month. March 4th. I think I'm going to be starting to go there a little bit more regularly too. I like working that crew. Yeah.
And shout out to Logan, all those guys, and go to Millennium Pro Wrestling right here on YouTube. And every week, weekly shows right here on YouTube. Every Friday night, 19801 Nordoff Place, Nashville, California, 7:30 p.m. right above Boulder Dash. And I think it's the only promotion right now, at least in this part of the country, where it's weekly, every Friday night, weekly television shows from a company, like an indie company this size. So yeah, I like seeing guys like you there, and because again, it kind of goes back to Santinos, and talk about this maybe a little bit. Like you're not just being a pro wrestler, you're being a TV performer, a television performer. They're treating it like it's a television show as opposed to an indie. Only the people here in the arena are watching me in the show.
Yeah, and you can really tell that when you watch the shows on YouTube as well, because I have watched a few of them. They add the highlight reels and the backstage promos, and when you're out there, you have, just like you do on television, you have to be mindful of where the cameras are, while also addressing the crowd. So yeah, they definitely do treat it that way, and I hope to continue to see them grow because they have a lot of heart. They put a lot of effort into their show, a lot of ongoing storylines.
Yeah.
I don't know how they come up with the names of the show every week instead of
Yeah,
just calling it MPW number whatever. But
yeah, as I was going along after a while, I'm like, hey man, who's coming up with these names? Like, yeah, I agree. I thought the same thing, man. But again, that's so cool in itself. You
yeah.
know, so the show is not just a number. It's no different than a pro wrestler, um, him or herself either. There's more to me or more to this show than meets the eye.
Yeah, and it makes every show feel like it's like its own identity. Like there's some semblance of importance to each one. Usually the titles kind of addressing the main event.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a cool aesthetic over there. Yeah, and like I said, I hope it continues to grow the way it has.
and hopefully you'll be a regular part of that too as well. I'll look forward to that in the future, my friend. And then have you did you, being in the West Coast, being in Southern California, the Southwest, have you worked any lucha shows?
Yeah, I've worked a few, mostly events. Like I've done La Bulla before. Um, like a few other small ones, usually ones that like are music events, and then there's also wrestling. But yeah, I haven't had a ton of lucha experience. I did do Baja Stars a few years back.
Wow.
But yeah, yeah, not a lot in the last couple of years.
How was that? Different for you? Like, did you have to get accustomed, or you kind of just did your thing, or what?
I mean, I think for me, I kind of luckily mostly worked people that I knew. Um, like your Tito and Rico, and I worked Robbie Phoenix at one of them.
All right.
Yeah, just mostly other Santinos, to be honest.
Yeah. Right.
But like the crowds are a little bit different, but they usually always got into me. Like I didn't have to do too much to win them over. I just kind of leaned into being goofier, and that crowd likes that. But yeah, no, it wasn't too hard, and it's fun to bust out a little bit more of my lucha skills. Luckily I've had that Los Luchas training. Shout out to
Yeah.
Zocre and Phoenix Star, so that I can hold my own in that setting if need be.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's only helps, and it's just such a different world, lucha and American pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
and the fans are so totally different too.
Yeah, they definitely respond differently. Definitely, usually you have to keep things higher energy, but that's
Right.
not a bad thing at all.
That's
And,
true, there's an innocence too. Like
mhm.
just got back, well, a couple months ago from the South, and I worked a show, but then we stumbled onto a wrestling show in Memphis. Stumbled onto it, and we went, and it was like, it kind of reminded me of lucha. Like they just kind of believe still a little bit more, let's say, than your spoiled crowd or whatever, your smart crowd.
Yeah,
I I,
yeah,
I,
that
I
makes sense.
smart to use, but yeah, yeah. But so okay. Before we start wrapping up, Darwin, I wanted to ask you: do you have um, favorite match or favorite opponent in California? Where you experience
Oh
wrestling?
boy. I mean, a lot. I think I have a lot of favorite opponents. Watts for sure. I've had like several matches against him, but I've loved every single one. Um, Dark Sheik, I had a couple of matches with her, and that I'm really proud of. Fidel Bravo, I love to hate.
Oh yeah,
We always we give it to each other pretty stiff. But
is that who you went
it's kind
against?
of therapeutic in a way.
Yeah, I mean it's like boot camp. You know, you're only going to come out stronger after, you know.
Exactly.
But is that who you worked when I saw you at NPW? Was that?
I think, when did you see me? You saw me work Jordan Cruz, I believe.
Oh wow, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good match.
Boy,
Yeah.
there's a pro right there.
Yeah, he's very
Pro,
good.
and how is it being in the ring with a guy like him who is intense? I look at a guy like that and I see the intensity, but I see somebody that has commitment to his character that's undeniable and unbreakable. Like you know what I mean? When somebody's that committed, we're like, oh, I guess this is who he really is type feeling the fans get. Did you notice that with him? And
oh, definitely. Yeah, and he's a beast too. He lifted me right up off the ground. Into a full power bomb. But yeah, no. Yeah, he's intense, but I like that. You know, it makes me bring up my level of intensity.
Right.
You know, I'm not there. You know, back maybe when I was like a trainee or something, that used to intimidate me, but now I kind of welcome it. You know, and I think it makes for a better performance out of both guys, and I try to, I try to match that with anyone I'm in the ring with, unless, you know, depending on the circumstance. You know, I'm not going to necessarily get super intense with Kikataro, but, you know, but, you know, most competitors in the Southern California area, I would say we have a pretty mostly intense scene right now.
Do you have, like, let's say, a top 3 opponents in California history that you wrestled?
I would probably say it's those 3 that I mentioned.
Let's say they're in your top 3, but in no particular order, but they're in the top 3.
Yeah, so I would say it's probably Watts, Dark Sheik, and maybe Fidel, or I also want to give a little shout out to she's no longer over here, Heather Monroe. I've had a lot of good matches with her as well, and she was always fun, because there's not often in intergender that you can successfully have the female be a heel, and I thought that we were able to do that well together.
So that's an issue. That's a whole nother thing. You're right. And there's I don't know, like, there's controversy behind the intergender on both sides, because look, on one hand, I think in a lot of times people don't know how to react to.
Yes.
And it's so understandable, because on one hand, you want to showcase these women and show that they are strong. Mm-hmm. But you also don't want to make the product too not believable. Okay. Sure. Now, on the other hand, the argument would be like, I don't know if it's right showing little boys that it's okay to hit girls. It's I don't know. It's hard to know how to think about that, because there's pros and cons. And look, I know the business, you know it, but the little 7-year-old that's already having problems hitting his sister, I don't know if I want I don't know if I wanted to see that.
Sure, but I've always equated wrestling to comic books and fighting games and things of that nature, that I grew up on, and I kind of liked wrestling for the same reasons. It was different people from different backgrounds, different costumes and characters, but they're all equal. And in fighting games and comic books,
Yeah.
it didn't. Those especially, the gender didn't matter.
Yeah. And race.
And wrestling is a larger than life performance, and I think today's kids it's probably okay that they know it's probably better that they know it's a performance, because we probably shouldn't be solving our problems with our fists.
Yeah, I remember.
I think if they know that and they're watching, Marvel movies, then they're probably okay watching pro wrestling, especially depending on the story that you're telling in the ring. As far as like the believability, I always argued, if you believe that Rey Mysterio can beat up the Big Show, you should believe that Heather can kick me in the head and knock me out.
You're right. And no, that part is great, and showcasing the strengths of women and competing is just a totally different thing. As far as like, because unfortunately I've seen it at a couple shows where after an intergender match, like it was Lucha, the kids were all in the ring,
Mm-hmm.
and the boys were kind of going heavy, and one of the boys told him in the back, like what you just said, like, hey, that's not really what it seems. So I remember thinking at that time, like, oh, I never thought of it that way before, because unfortunately when we were kids, it's so easy for us to sit here and get it. But it's like when the kid doesn't want to believe Santa's not real. Like, I'm telling you, and
Yeah.
so anyway, it's complex. Like that's just a complex one.
Yeah, it's not a simple yes or no.
Right. It's right. And you want to be as fair to anybody that's back there, of course. So, Darwin, man, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being on Cali's Finest. You are one of Cali's finest. And
thank you.
But no, Darwin Finch, thank you again, man, for joining us here on Cali's Finest. As you, my friend, are one of Cali's finest. And before we sign off, first off, what does the future hold for Darwin Finch?
Well, the future, I think, holds bigger and better things for me. I believe that I'm going to have matches against all the bests here in SoCal and beyond. I'm going to continue to travel and wrestle wherever I can. And I'm hoping to get a belt or two back around my waist, because it's been a little while since I had one. So I would like one again.
Very cool, Darwin. Well, once again, thank you so much. And again, before we leave, any plugs, any shout outs, anything at all that you'd like to say before we sign off here?
Sure. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at Finch, and you can follow me on Instagram at Punkrock Pointdexter. And please do give Pro Wrestling a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and watch our videos on YouTube.
I like
if you like silliness with your wrestling.
I like Jar Jar Binks, Dar Finch. That's awesome. All right, my friend. Well, thank you once again. For everybody watching here on the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe, and we will see you with more Cali's Finest, the best of California's professional wrestlers, right here on Cali's Finest. I'm your host, Kris Kloss, for my guest, Darwin Finch. This has been Cali's Finest right here on the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel. We will see you on the 10th of every month for new episodes of Cali's Finest. Darwin, thank you again so long, everybody.
Thank you.